Welcome everybody to our liquid fertilizer webinar today. You can see here my name, Jürgen Winter. You know Jan Spitalniak. I'm responsible at Lechler for sales and advice to our clients in Germany at our home market. Also, I'm working for Netherlands and for Denmark. So I talk to a lot of our clients. That means dealers, manufacturers, and of course, a lot to farmers to advise the proper use of fertilizer nozzles, of plant protection nozzles, and so on. So I would like to introduce and show you a few figures about Lechler company. You may be aware that we are placed in the southwest part of Germany. It's close to Stuttgart. You see here a Metzingen headquarter, an overview picture from the air with our old warehouse. Here you can see the old warehouse here, and it's not yet here on this picture. We just opened a brand new warehouse logistics center here in the back corner. And why do we need a new warehouse, a new logistics center? The company is growing and our nozzles are sold worldwide. They're not all produced here in Metzingen, but important thing is all the agriculture nozzles, all the egg nozzles, we're also a bit proud, still produced all here in this factory, made in Germany. So we call this our knowledge center for injection molding. It's at our headquarter in Metzingen, Germany. I'm one of those 350 employees, and totally worldwide, we are close to 800 people. So if you think about 800 people, quite a lot of people, what are they doing? Are they all producing egg nozzles? No, they do. You will see in a few slides later and in a short video. And another important figure, I guess one of the most important ones, is the long history of the Lechler company producing nozzles for all kinds of liquids. So we have a long history, a long experience. Of course, we also doing mistakes, but you will see later on our quality checks we do in our production before leaving the nozzles or the goods to factory. So these are our 4 divisions. You know, Jan, my colleague, I, and the other ones, we are all working very close to agriculture. This division, but we have in totally 4. And I'm showing you this slide because we can share the knowledge, you know, the experience. If we design or produce an egg nozzle, of course, it's similar as producing a nozzle used in here food industry. Like general industry applications there, often, yeah, food industry, tank cleaning, coating, whatever. You will see in a short video in a few seconds. Here we are a supplier for power plants, for cement plants to control air quality. Also cruise ships, for instance, are using air cleaning systems to prevent too much sulfur, too much nitrogen blown out through their exhaust. And steel industry, also globally, worldwide, we are present when steel is produced. So to get an impression, you see here an overview about all kind of different nozzles. You see the stainless ones, brass ones, and also a few egg nozzles you're familiar with here at the front. So to get an impression, what are those close to 800 people doing worldwide? We do a quick jump into YouTube. So we may have some advertisements.
Water.
No, we don't.
A necessity for life and all living creatures. But when humans learned to use the power of water as a tool, this evolved in great strides for civilization. Lechler has been using and perfecting this knowledge since 1879. As a family-owned company with 6 production centers and 14 locations worldwide, Lechler develops solutions with fluids for all types of applications. The goal is to ensure that fluids are always used efficiently. Precision nozzles are manufactured from a wide range of materials using state-of-the-art production processes. They allow the use of fluids to optimize many different processes.
I'm always stopping the video here. Why do I stop the video? To give you a surprise. It's because of the speed and the amount of nozzles dropping out here of this machinery. And I want really to point out that in reality, the production speed is a lot slower, really a lot slower. It's not that the 10 nozzles in a second are dropping out of our injection molding machinery. As you can see here, we're talking about a blue nozzle, an IDK03 in plastic material made of two parts. You see, there is a nozzle body here and there's an insert. And when we produce this nozzle, there is about every 40 to 50 seconds is one body, one piece is produced and releasing or released out of the tooling and coming out of the machinery. So every 40 to 50 seconds, one nozzle body. And of course, we have to produce the insert, the injector on another tooling, and then finally mount it together. So the question is, why we are producing only a single piece and then not another single piece? It's a quite slow process. And this is just mandatory. It's necessary to really have the quality, the precision we would like to have. Compared to a bayonet cap, you know, we need bayonet caps to mount the nozzles on the spray, on the nozzle bodies. To produce a bayonet cap, yeah, you can use a tooling where you produce 4 or 6 or 8 in one. We call it one shot. So bayonet cap is quite easy to produce compared to a nozzle. And this is also the difference in pricing. You know, if you see this IDK nozzle, depends where you are from, how much you are buying from us. Farmer's price roughly €4, roughly. So a bayonet cap is a same amount of plastic, even more. It's just €1, €1.50. The difference is the precision and the way we are producing these nozzles. So it's quite slow and not as shown here in this sequence.
For efficiently cleaning all kinds of tanks and containers, for hygienic food production, or even the precise etching of conductors on printed circuit boards. In agriculture, Lechler nozzles distribute the precise amount of pesticides and liquid fertilizers. This increases yield, reduces costs, and protects the environment at the same time. In environmental technology, Lechler provides complete solutions for effective flue gas desulfurization and gas cooling. They ensure that even the most stringent limit values are met. In metallurgy, Lechler nozzles make a vital contribution to the efficiency of steel and energy for a highly competitive global market. And sometimes Lechler nozzles are used for providing pure leisure and fun. Lechler has focused their knowledge on testing and development of over 25,000 nozzles in their unique Technology and Development Center at the company's headquarters in Metzingen, Germany. Here, state-of-the-art laser measuring technology determines the micrometer precise measurements of size, speed, and spatial distribution of water particles, maximum throughput rates and pressure levels, optimum distribution, and ultra-fine spray are analyzed with exact precision. This yields precise testing and optimization of spray results. Lechler engineers know what they are doing before they even do it, and thorough tests are performed on all products that go into production for Lechler worldwide. But what makes Lechler special? The history of our company that goes back over 135 years? Our clearly defined values? Of course, however, our employees are what make the difference. Their teamwork, competences, and talent. They are a model for others, perfecting their skills while passing on their knowledge. They design and produce nozzles for the most powerful forces, highest speeds, extreme rotations and forms, and ensure optimum impact at the perfect angle. All of this makes us the #1 manufacturer for nozzle technology in Europe and a market leader worldwide. Nozzles with precision and power for innovative spray technology made in Germany. That's Lechler. Lechler, engineering your spray solution.
So I think it's a good short video clip to get an impression what we are doing and what we are doing also behind the doors. You may know or may haven't seen before, about the spray lab, about the measuring, and all kind of variety, a great variety of all type of nozzles we are producing. So we're going back to the slides and continue our webinar. So here another picture out of the R&D center, and we are also still a bit proud. It's one of the most advanced R&D center for nozzles worldwide. Of course, there are also other producers of nozzles, and it's not a secret. Like in Germany, we have a smaller nozzle manufacturer for plant protection nozzles. It's Agrotop. They also know what they are doing. There is T-Jet, named in agriculture, or spraying system. There is Hypo-Pent Air. There are Polish manufacturers. There's not only Lechler in the global nozzle world, but we think we know what we are doing. And also one target is always to deliver constant high quality. Not one box of nozzles is a good quality and the next box you are getting is a much lower quality. You want to make sure we have always a constant, pretty high quality. And regarding fertilizer application, we are using also one of our test benches when we develop liquid fertilizer technology, liquid fertilizer nozzles to measure the spray impact. You see here it's in red letters, spray impact, because normally this device is used for nozzles in the steel industry, because there the customers really need to know the energy of the water jet, and they're using 300 to 500 bars to spray off some oxide layer of the raw steel material. And there we really need to give them a protocol about the energy, about the spray impact of our nozzles there. And we use this device also when we are developing fertilizer technology. So if we talk about fertilization, of course, we as a nozzle manufacturer, as Lechler, we like the liquid fertilizer much more as the granular ones. Of course, you know, the liquid we can distribute, spread on the fields with our products, but both systems work. You know, some farmers in some areas, they say, yeah, I would like to use more liquid fertilizer, but availability, storage, that's always a question which needs to be answered, because in some areas it's just not available. But if I come to eastern part of Germany, I think also the same in Poland, in a lot of Eastern European countries, fertilizer, liquid fertilizer is available everywhere. If we're coming to the Northern Europe area, more Scandinavia, there is much more dominating the granular fertilizer, but also Maximilian Severin may give us an overview about their shares of liquid to granular to solid fertilizer. Both is working, you know. Today, of course, we want to talk about a liquid, the perfect solution, question mark, you know. Is this really the perfect solution? Where should we have a closer look, and what should we consider when talking and spreading liquid fertilizer to the field? And of course, we need fertilizer in good quality, good products, you know. And Max Severin will talk to us in a few minutes and a report about their quality guideline for their liquid fertilizer products. And that's why also this logo here, SKW Piesteritz, this is their logo, is quite huge today. Of course, there are other ones. These are competitor. This is a Polish one, you see, Group Azoty, and Agrofert is coming from Czechia. So at first, we need good products, good quality, pH level, and so on. You will hear in a few minutes about this. Then, of course, we need technology. We need professional sprayers. What means professional? Please do not think about that only this one and this color are professional ones. These are just examples. Professional means a sprayer in good shape, not leaking, not dripping. Pressure gauge should be in the right way. The pump should work properly. It can be a used one, 10, whatever, 15, 20 years old, in a good shape. Because we putting through a lot of chemicals, a lot of liquid fertilizer, a high amount of money is spread or delivered to the field with these kind of machinery. Of course, know-how is needed. And that's why why you are here. You want to gain know-how. you want to improve your knowledge. I think you still have knowledge, but it's never too late to gain a new knowledge. And of course, we as Lechler, we always have a look to the nozzles. What kind of nozzles they are using, right size, right spray pattern, and nozzles together with the sprayer, together with a good quality of fertilizer and with your knowledge leads to a good result, to success. To be on the safe side regarding damage to the plant, you know, if we're not considering the conditions out in the field, it can happen some damage to the plants. And finally, okay, we want to gain sustainability. So it's like a gearbox. It works together, nozzles, product, and technology. Before we coming to the quality of liquid fertilizer, a few points, a few things I would like to share with you. There's some opinion of mine there in these slides here. But often when I talk to farmers, they ask me how to improve efficacy. Especially this year, you know, fertilizer prices are through the roof. They're really expensive as never before, and farmers try to save fertilizer. So one thing is, okay, more precision when applying. You know, when it comes to wind, you know, and we have wind erosion or water erosion, we have losses. We have losses from the fertilizer, which is already there on the field, but it's just blown away by the wind. This is mainly in a question of phosphate, you know. Phosphate sticks to the small soil particles. And if we have wind erosion, we're also losing phosphate of our fields. If we have water erosion, also phosphate, but also too much water can wash easily down granular fertilizer or can wash down fertilizer, nitrate especially, down into the groundwater, which we should really avoid. We lose money when this happens. And also quite popular over the last years are becoming those sensors. You know, they called N sensors from different manufacturers to control the fertilizer spreader or to control the sprayer when spreading liquid fertilizer. And my opinion is just to put such a sensor on the roof of the tractor or in front of the tractor is not the solution for more efficacy. You really need to know, it's just a tool in the toolbox, and you really need to know what you are doing there. And there's a kind of competition, you know, between those sensors, which do it online when the tractor is moving, but then you need to calibrate them. You need to have a good operator who likes to work with all those technologies. And there's a competition to satellite maps. And satellite maps, this is more the offline version, that you get a map of your field and you see here, okay, here is better soil quality, here's not as good. So let's divide the amount. So let's spread here more and here less. So this is just the tooling and not the final solution. And that's what I mean here, more precision without sensors. So, because when it comes to soil, you know, and the plants are growing on our good soils, but if the soil structure is in a bad shape, in a bad condition, because this farmer never spread lime over the last 10 or 20 years, CO3, limestone or calcium, soil structure often is missing. And pH level really affects also the availability of N, of P, of all those fertilizer we spread onto our fields. So soil structure, improved root zone, subsoiling, all helps to improve efficacy of fertilizer. And also studies show, I've seen a few studies, farmers who working on the long run, that means 10, 20 years only with mineral fertilizer, they're gaining good yields, but not as stable, especially when it's coming to dry condition, to wet conditions. The plants are not as healthy. The soil is not as healthy if we feed our soil regularly every few years with compost or with organic manure. That means liquid or solid. So we help our soil also to buffer extreme weather conditions if we do a combination between mineral fertilization and organic fertilizer. And of course, when applying organic fertilizer, we have to reduce losses. We will also have some information from SKW Piesteritz. And the last one is, it's kind of a saying here in the south part of Germany, you know, sunshine, I call it sunshine out of the bag or out of the big bag. What is the sense behind? Sunshine out of the big bag means, you know, I did mistakes, you know, I have compacted soil, I planted far too late or too little plants when I was seeding, and the crop is not looking really good. And I just open my fertilizer spreader, my sprayer more, and try to correct mistakes with N amount. Correct mistakes with fertilizer. It's cost intensive or just not possible, because in more and more countries, especially like in Germany, I think also in Scandinavia, limit of N and P are limited, or they're limited by law. You know, if I'm speaking to Germany, we have strict limits over the last years because we are a member of the European Union. I think the same is for Poland and for other members in the European Union. So sunshine out of the big bag is not possible, or it costs a lot of money. So benefits, in my eyes, benefits of liquid fertilizer, one of the major benefits is the really good cross distribution with the sprayer to the end of the field, really 100% to the end, full amount. Because as you know, a fertilizer spreader, a modern fertilizer spreader, when talking about 30-meter distance of the tram lines, not with 15 meter, 15 to 18 meter is quite easy to spread if you talk to fertilizer spreader manufacturers. But if it comes to wider distance of tram lines, I just mark it here, let's say 30 meters, and you're spraying with your spreader the fertilizer, you know, one of those discs, if it's a 2-disc spreader, spreads to here and all around to here, and the other one spreads to here and all around to here. So finally, this spreader is spreading 60 meter wide, 30 meter to here and 30 meter to here. And if it comes to the border, and you don't want to spread solid fertilizer over the border, always the amount of fertilizer coming from here is going down. So this you can easily see out at the border, at the end of the field, at the edging, yield is missing. So this is one of the biggest benefits when talking about liquid fertilizer, also in windy conditions. Compared from the cost side, liquid fertilizer over the last years was always cheaper when we're talking about kilograms nitrogen, because often we have a higher content compared to the solid ones. Both is working, don't get me wrong, but comparing in price, kilogram N is cheaper in the liquid version. Yields, big question, what about yields? Because in some reports, in some whatever articles, you are reading, solid is better because of this. And the other ones you can see or read, liquid is better because of this. And over the last years, 10, 15 years, also, for instance, SKW in Germany, they have their own research farm. They compared standard UAN, standard liquid fertilizer with ammonium nitrate over 4 crops, and finally the same. It's the same over the years between with all 4 crops they did. So yields are the same. Price is normally a bit cheaper. And in my point of view, availability in really dry condition, you know, not if it's powder dry, but in drier condition, the wet fertilizer, the liquid fertilizer is available in a better way as the granular one, which is lying just on top. So the combination of liquid fertilizer with plant protection, it was a good argument the last years, maybe 5-10 years back. A lot of farmers, they use this combination in the early spring. They've put herbicide in pure UAN, but it's a compromise, you know. With plant protection products, we're talking about coverage. With liquid fertilizer, we want to have more coarser droplets to roll off the plant. So this is not a major argument anymore in my eyes, the combination with plant protection products. And on the last but not least is depots, you know, depots of fertilizer, early spring season, you know, you're spreading a higher amount of stabilized UAN. already there when it's getting dry, you know. Over the last years, we have more extreme weather conditions, and if you try to give your plants fertilizer quite late in end of April or beginning of May, and it's already really dry, the availability is not as good as if you spread it quite early in the season. So these are a few ideas, a few thoughts from my side about benefits of liquid fertilizer. Well, then we are coming to Maximilian Severin. You know, so you see a picture here of their factory. This is their logo, and I will stop now my presentation and will hand over to Maximilian. And Max, as you see, our audience is coming from Scandinavia, from Poland, from Spain. Just let them know where you are placed, and also, I guess, where is your fertilizer available? Do you have partners also in those countries? I think this is also an important question we should target.
Yes, that's a very important question. Today we will talk about liquid fertilizer quality. We will talk how to increase the nitrogen efficiency. And at first I will give you some impressions of our company, and then we will go step by step to quality, to yield results, and also to strategies for liquid fertilization. And here you can see a picture of our company, and we are located directly between Berlin and Leipzig in Eastern Germany. 850 people work in our company, and here you can see our producing area. And this total area here around is 220 hectares. It's like a normal farm in Eastern Germany. And here you can see our fertilizer production. It is this area here. We produce liquid fertilizers, that means UAN solution, and we produce also solid fertilizers, that means urea. And we are a daughter of the Agrofert company, and the Agrofert is a Czech big company who is located in the complete food chain. That means we have fertilizer producers in our holding. We also have own farms, but we also have some bakeries. For example, here it is Lechler Bakery. Maybe you also know it. They produce bread and also toast, for example, and they are one of the biggest German bakeries. And we have different partners on this location here. You can see here the company Louis Dreyfus. They produce biodiesel from oilseed rape, and there's a very strong contact, so that when the trucks come with oilseed, they get then fertilizers and drive back to farmers. There's a closed cycle. Then we can see here a glass house, and this glass house uses our CO2, and they also uses our heat, and that means they have a better photosynthesis, and they produce tomatoes, they produce paprika and strawberries. They have an area of 35 hectares. It's a very big glass house, and they produce their products for the regional markets. And now to our products. We ship our products via railroad. You can see here we have 34 kilometers railroad tracks in our company, and the railroad tracks goes also here directly into the storages, and then the trains with round about 1,000 tons fertilizers can drive to the customers. And on the other hand, we also use trucks, and that means round about 50% were shipped by truck and 50% shipped by railroad to the customers. Here you can see the river Elbe, and when the water is very high, we have also an own harbor, and there we also can ship our fertilizers or industrial chemicals. And we have in Germany traders we work together. In Germany, we have some big traders that are around about 10 big companies who trade all agricultural products, also fertilizers, and they sell the fertilizers to smaller companies who sell it then to the farmers. And that are our partners in Germany. And in other countries, we have one partner, mainly about our Agrofert company. They have different companies in especially the Eastern Europe countries. And we have one partner for one country, and also ship the products not only to Germany and German farmers, we also ship it to other countries. That's very important for you. But 95% of our fertilizers were used in Germany, and the rest is used in other countries.
Max, one question here.
Yes.
Could you give us an indication about the amount of solid to liquid fertilizer? Is it 50-50, or because you produce a lot of urea, is it much more solid granular ones, roughly?
It's a little bit more liquid.
Okay.
And the solid is extra. You can see here the tanks for the solid fertilizers. We store it here, but then we also use the traders to store our fertilizers in the different regions. And here you can see the storages for our solid fertilizers, and therefore also we use different traders. Very important in our company is the research. When you work for farmers, you have to develop your products. You have different things you have to think about. On the one hand, it's a climate aspect. On the other hand, it's the region where you farm. And we have a research farm in Kunnersdorf. It's 15 minutes away from Leipzig. And then we have 140 hectares to do different trials. And our trial starts in a climate chamber. That means you have a temperature, you have also water saturation. You can totally control the system. And when a fertilizer is effective in the system, we go to the glass house. You can see it here. We make different pot trials here. And when this is also good, then we go to the field. And every year on 15 to 20 hectares, we made field trials with small parcels. And we also do some practical trials, and we do trials together with other companies from plant protection, from seeding. And very important for us, we work together with universities, we work together with agricultural chambers and officials. And one time a year, we make a very big field day to show the results from the field. We also show it in the winter on our winter events, but it's very important for us that the people come to the trial station and see and feel what is there. And when you are interested, you are invited to come to us, maybe on the 8th of June. There we have our big field day, but you can also ask us for a special term, for a special meeting there with a smaller group. It's also possible. And also very important for us, it's public relations. When we listen to Jürgen, he talked a little bit about on the problems of agriculture and the relation of agriculture to the normal people who don't know how agriculture goes on. And there we started in 2017 with the Futurea Science Center. It's a science center where you can see, for example, how to produce bread from fertilizer, from seed, and how you can harvest it, and how to mill it, and then how many bread you get from 1 square meter. It's one example. Here you can see how many people can be fed by one farmer. And we use this center for our customers, but we also use it for schools and universities. You can see it here. And to show how farming and agriculture is going on. And then I will give you some impressions to the challenges of nitrogen fertilization. I think the most of it you know, but it's very important to know the complete picture of this, because nitrogen fertilization is needed to produce food and to produce raw material for the complete food and living chain. And today 50% of the people who live on Earth can only live on Earth because mineral nitrogen fertilizers are used. And now I will build up this picture. For you as a farmer, it's very important that you can earn money with the fertilization and with your farming. But you have, on the one hand, the problem of weather extremes. That means in summer, it becomes drier and drier in most regions of Germany, but also of Eastern Europe. I think it's a problem. And on the other hand, the publics say we want to get a high food quality, but we don't want to pay for it. And that's a very big problem. I think it's not only in Germany a problem, it's also a problem in your countries. And you as a farmer, you have to get a result in economy, but also in ecology. And that's very important for us, and that's our target to get this. And for us, it's also very important to show beyond the horizon, because you as a farmer, you go to school for farming, you go to university for farming, and you have a lot of expert knowledge to that what you do every day. And the publics say, oh, a farmer uses fertilizers, they use pesticides, it's all very bad. But when you look to the publics, they use something to get nice nails, and often it's colored, and it's a lot of chemistry in this nails. And when you talk to the publics, we have to say, you use it, but you are not an expert on chemistry, but you use it. And I am an expert on agricultural, and I also can use pesticides and nitrogen fertilizers. And yes, that are a few words and impressions to our company and to our thinkings. And now we will go on with the liquid fertilizer quality. And when you use liquid fertilizers, you have to define targets. And the first target should be that the distributed nutrients can be used from the plants. The next point is that you spread the nutrients to the right edge. That's very important. We will see it later on. Then I will give you some pictures and impressions how to do this. And the most important point is that the nutrient you spray on the plant or on the floor is compatible with the plants, that the plant can go on with it. But or when the plant is not compatible with the liquid fertilizers, you have a very big problem. And another point is the nitrogen use efficiency, and it should be high. And how to realize it? You have on the one hand the application technology. That means you have your applicator and the nozzle in this applicator. Then you have the fertilizer quality, and very important, the fertilization strategy. That means you have to look for the right quantity at the right time to apply your fertilizer. And therefore, you have to know some principles. That are some principles, they are very logical, and when you look to your plants, you can easily identify it. The first point is the wax layer on the leaves of the plant. When the plant is very small, the wax layer is also not so good. And when the plant grows and grows, the wax layer is better, and the plant has a better compatibility to the liquid fertilizer. But when the plant grows and grows, you have more and more leaves on your plant. That means that you have more square centimeters or square meters where the liquid fertilizer goes on, and that means the plant is more sensitive to the fertilizer, because you can destroy more and more leaves. And another point is that when the plant is more sensitive, you have to more gently apply the fertilizers that need large drops, and you have to apply the fertilizer with a low pressure. For example, when we talk on Greenland, you can compare it with yourself. When you cut the Greenland, there's a wound, and it's burning for the plant when on this wound you spray liquid fertilizer. It's the same like when you have an accident and maybe your arm is open here, and then you go to the shower and you use an shampoo, then it's burning, and it's not nice, and it's the same for the plant. And when we talk on liquid fertilizers, you need to know some tips to the quality. And on the one hand, we have very cheap liquid fertilizers that are low quality fertilizers, for example, from chemistry industry. They are cheap, but you have a very big problem with the quality. You have a very low pH value between 4 to 6. That means that the plant can destroy it. You have a low surface tension. What surface tension means, we will see in an example. Very important, often the primary origin of this low quality fertilizers is not known. And at this point, the publics are right when they say the farmer uses fertilizers, and the farmer also uses pesticides and not think about it. And they are right when you use a fertilizer from an unknown origin. You also can have the problems that the ingredients are unknown. The nutrient ratio can be difficult. You can damage your application machinery because of corrosion. It's also a problem when you have settle in the tank. That means that the fertilizer is falling out, and then you have, after a few years, problems with your tank. And you have no advice to your fertilizer and to your advice. And when you look to fertilizers with a high quality, you know the nutrients and their availability. You have a pH in a neutral range. You have a high surface tension from 60 to 80 meter per I don't know, to
you can call it millinewton, Max.
millinewton, yes.
You can
Thank
call
you,
it, but you will explain it later.
yes. You have no technical damages on your applicator, and you have no storage problems with your fertilizer. And now I will give you some products from our company. You have the starter products. It's, for example, the Piazan 28. It's an UAN solution with 28% nitrogen. Then you have the Piazan 28. It's specially fertilizer for organic fertilizers. You can have a combination. It has 20% of nitrogen and 8% of sulfur. And here you have the Piazan 25-6, 25% nitrogen, 6% of sulfur. And here in the bottom line, you can see our stabilized fertilizers. Stabilized means that there is a nitrification inhibitor in this fertilizer, and the plant can take up ammonium and nitrate over a longer time. And there we also have different solutions. And I give you some impressions on the quality parameters. And now we will talk about how to can influence it. The pH value. The pH value comes from the production process. That means you cannot influence it positive. You can only influence it negative when you mix the liquid fertilizer with other substances, what reduces the pH value. Storability is or can be a problem for liquid fertilizers because most tanks are not stored in heated buildings. They are outside or they are in cool buildings, especially in Eastern Europe or Northern Europe. It can be a problem. And our advice is to have a minimum crystallization point in minus 50 degrees. That's also a point you cannot influence. And then the surface tension. That's the most important point. We will look for it in detail. That can be influenced negatively by you only. That means when you mix your liquid fertilizer, then the surface tension maybe goes down. And what means surface tension? You can see here a high surface tension, and here you see a low surface tension. And a high surface tension means that you have very big drops, and they lay on the leaf and roll up from the leaf. When you look to this picture, you have a middle surface tension. You see you don't have a big drop, and the drop is binded to the leaf a little bit. And when you look here to this, you have a very low surface tension. Then it means that you have a liquid film on your leaf, and when the sun is shining, the leaf can be burned, and that's a very big problem. So that means that's not good, that's also not good, and that is the target for the fertilizers. And how to measure it? That's often a question. Maybe you know from school the experiment when you have water, and maybe Jürgen, you can give me the right word, Büroklammer.
My camera and will show you, because I do not know the English word for, you know, to put paper together. You can this can swim on water, you know, to fix papers. We call it Büroklammer in Germany, but I do not know the English one. But you can put this on water, you know, when it's swimming, even if it's made of steel, it's swimming. That's what his explanation is for.
Yes, and very important when you lay it on water, it's swimming, but when you do a tensed to it or a shampoo, then the Büroklammer cannot swim on the water. And it's the same with the liquid fertilizer. You have here, Yes, it's from a shaver. I think you know it. It's a very small plate you can put in the liquid fertilizer. Here it's a liquid fertilizer. And then you can put it in the liquid fertilizer or in water, and you can compare it to other solutions. And when it's completely in the water, you can put it up. That means you can measure the force that's needed to put it up from the water. And that is the surface tension. And it's very important to know the surface tension, and it must be very high in liquid fertilizers. Otherwise, you have problems with yields. And in this trial, we do it together with Lechler and the Lechler nozzles. We compared the liquid fertilizer, Piazan 28, it's a quality fertilizer, with an UAN solution with a bad surface tension. And we do it with different nozzles. We do it with an IDN nozzle, with a multi-hole nozzle, and we also use the drag hose. And so when you look to the results of this trial, you can see here, on the one hand, the protein content. It's gray here. And you see it's between 12 and 14%. I think there's no big difference between the different treatments. It's on the same level. But when you look to the yield, it's here blue and here it's red. You see with the lower surface tension, the yield goes down. And I think it's very important because in the moment you have a lot of problems with nitrogen efficiency. The fertilizer prices are very, very high. And so efficiency should be the first and most important thing you have to think about. And you see here, when the surface tension is lower, the yield is reduced by more than 10%, and it's very a big factor in the economical point, because when you buy a liquid fertilizer with a low quality in our days, it's also not so cheap, and the difference between the prices you cannot get in with the yield you see here. And so you have to use the fertilizer with a very high quality. And here I will show you a picture when you have problems with the surface tension. You see here the different colors. There's a question in the background.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Is there a question or not? So we can pick up this question if you would like to. No, Max, go ahead.
Okay, I go
ahead.
on. Okay, you see here the different colors, and yes, that's a problem in this plant. And here was the problem that also the fertilizer mixed with fungicide, because the application technology was not very clearly washed out, and so the plant is burned and the fertilizer becomes spicy. And when you mix fertilizer in liquid form with water, then 1:1. When you do it in a dilution, then 1:3, or better 1:4. Very important, not use liquid fertilizers when the plant is wet. When you use plant protection products, especially fungicides or wetting agents, you have to wash out your application technology. That's very important. Otherwise, you get such a picture here. no application of liquid fertilizers without a first cleaning the spraying technology. And very important, the temperature. It should not be more than 25 degrees when you use liquid fertilizers. And also the solar radiation should not be so high.
Max, one question, sorry
yes.
to interrupt you. The first point and the second one about the dilution, from my point of view, pure fertilizer or 1:3, 1:4. It's maybe a misunderstanding. The first point, what you mean with 1:1 there?
Yes, it's right. You said it, Jürgen. You can use it only as a liquid fertilizer.
Pure, yeah.
Yes, pure, or when you mix it, then 1:3 to 1:4.
Yeah, because don't mix it 1:1. It will be like a glyphosate or a burner, you know. Some farmers do it. And when I talk to them, they say, okay, when I planted corn in the springtime and I want to add some nutrients, sometimes they do 1:1, half 100 liter fertilizer, 100 liter water, and it's like a herbicide. It burns everything off. So watch out, and it will look a lot worse than here on this right-hand picture. So pure or 1:3, 1:4.
Thank you. It can be a very bad experience. Yes, then another point, liquid fertilizers. I showed you the drops and why the drops should be so big and why they should roll from the leaf. It has a very important reason, because only 5 to 20% of the nitrogen it's fertilized on the leaf can taken up by the leaf. And the rest, that means 80 to 95% of the nitrogen it's fertilized, must taken up over the soil from the roots. And that means, or you have to get the target that the liquid fertilizer rolls from the leaf to the soil and then is taken up into the plant. It's another way when you use pesticides or micronutrients, then you have the target that's taken up from the leaf directly in bigger amounts. And now we will talk about stabilized fertilization. I give you some, fertilizer products on this, but what means stabilized? Stabilized means that the fertilizer, it can be a liquid fertilizer, it also can be a solid fertilizer, but it's also possible with organic fertilizers that you use a nitrification inhibitor. And normally, when you put out a fertilizer, the ammonium concentration goes down, and in 14 days to 3 weeks, a lot of the ammonium becomes nitrate. And when you use a nitrification inhibitor, you can reduce this process. Very important not to stop this process. And then the plant can take up ammonium, but also nitrate in the same time. And it's a very good and mixed plant nutrition. And on the other hand, you can reduce nitrate leaching. You can also reduce N2O emissions. And that means you reduce nitrogen losses, you do something for the environment, and you as a farmer, you can reduce your applications. Normally, for example, in oilseed rape, you do 2 applications. With a stabilized fertilizer, you can do it with 1 application in a big amount. And in quality wheat, you do normally 3 or 4 applications. With a stabilized fertilizer, you can do it in 2 applications. And here you will see a little bit on this strategy. I will give you and show you some results. In the first step, we look to the winter wheat, and the winter wheat is fertilized in this trial with the traditional fertilizer, with sulfur, and then with a stabilized fertilizer. You can see here, when you use the traditional fertilizer, you have to applicate 3 times fertilizer. When you do it with a stabilized fertilizer, you can do it in 2 applications. And when you look to the results, we have here an uptake, the blue, and the gray is the yield. You see here, with 2 applications, you can have a higher yield than with 3 applications. You also have a higher N uptake, and you see it's very important to use nitrogen with sulfur. It's also an important point, because 1 kilogram sulfur, when it's not enough, can influence the uptake of 10 to 15 kilogram nitrogen negatively. And that means the strategy is very important. And when you look to this stabilized strategy here, you can see we differentiate between the application date. The first application in this case is done before the vegetation begins. And in this trial element, in this treatment, the first application is done when the vegetation starts. That means with stabilized fertilizers, you can also earlier apply the first application. It's also very important, because when it becomes then dry later, the fertilizer is in the soil and can be used, because in this early stages, there's a lot of water in the soil. When we go on and look to the oilseed rape, we can see the same picture. Here we only compared different stabilized fertilizers, but we do here an first application in 2 treatments in autumn. You see here the 60 kilogram, and then we do another application to the vegetation start. We do it with 2 applications, but in Germany, I think also in other countries, it's a problem when you have an autumn application. This 60 kilogram, you have to calculate to this 120 kilogram. And when you look to this treatments here, this 2, you see you can apply the 180 kilogram in 1 application. That means you can reduce your time on field, and the fertilizer is better available in this treatment here, because it's early fertilized in a time when it's enough water in the soil. And so you have a big advantage of the stabilized fertilization. And when we go on to the grassland fertilization, you can also use stabilized fertilizers, and you have to look to the same tips for liquid fertilization like in the other crops. You have to hit the surface, and the application must be done with big drops, and the aim or the target of the Greenland fertilization, that the plants or the leaves are not destroyed by the liquid fertilizer. And you can also combine the nitrogen with sulfur. And very important, I told you, after cutting the Greenland, you have to wait for liquid fertilizers to a time when the leaves are have no more destructions.
Yeah, not freshly cut it. Yeah.
Yes, not freshly cut it. And now I will give you a summary of my presentation. At first, stabilized fertilization do not mean that the nitrogen is fixed in the soil. It means that the nitrogen can taken up flexible by the plant, and you can reduce different nitrogen losses. The fertilizing effect of liquid fertilizers is the same compared to granulated or solid fertilizers at lower cost per kilogram of nitrogen. And liquid fertilizers achieve yield advantages in many areas, and very important, the plant compatibility. Because when the quality is not very good, you can get problems with your plant growth, and you have to look to the fertilization tips, and it should not be too hot outside, and the solar radiation should be low when you use liquid fertilizers. The weather you have to look for, and very important, when you have questions, ask before you use the liquid fertilizer, because when you use it and then ask, we often cannot help. And yes, thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Max, for sharing all your knowledge and your information. So we heard a lot about surface tension, you know, and then finally with our technology, with the sprayers and with the nozzles, we can only make sure that these surface tension, if there's a great surface tension, that we are not destroying this with the wrong nozzles. And the slides mainly, you know, were targeting also to the application time, to what kind of fertilizer, to the strategy, and you know, to your clients, to your customers, to the farmers, you can also easily hand out our fertilizer brochure. A lot of this knowledge, what we're talking about, which is more dedicated to farmer, is also in our fertilizer brochure. You will have a look to it also later on. And important, you know, we will have to prevent with the nozzles, like in here, with the FD nozzle, we have to prevent these high surface tension to create these great big drops, this kind of a ball, like a raindrop. That's what we want to have, to roll off the fertilizer off the leaf, to not have them sticky on the leaves. Important is also customers asking, is it possible to run the FD nozzle like here, or a fertilizer nozzle when it's frozen, when it's frozen ground? Because often in the early spring, there are good conditions, you know, to run with a fertilizer spreader and the sprayer to run in frozen ground. But then people should be aware that the plants should be dry. You know, if there is a kind of a, you know, frost and all is coated by a frost, or called hoarfrost, or, you know, kind of a frozen dew, this is water. This is water on the plant. And as we have heard, if we have a solution 1-to-1, so 1 part fertilizer and 1 part water, even if it's frozen, this can be quite aggressive and you can burn a little bit the leaves. But at the early spring, at the early beginning of the vegetation, you know, the plants are quite small. We have just a few leaves. There's a huge difference if we talk about the vegetation, beginning of the vegetation with small crops, or if we talk about a second or a third application when the crops are a lot taller. So, and often the questions to us, I have air induction tips, I have Lechler IDK or ID nozzles. Do I need to buy extra fertilizer nozzles? They are pricey, and this is a picture here. If you go to our website and you looking for products for liquid fertilization, you will see this picture here with different kind of fertilizer nozzles, but as well air induction tips. You see here IDK and also ID3. Why are they there? Why we are not only promoting the special FD range, you see here in the back, FD range, FD, you may be familiar with it, or the new FS range, which are an orified type stream nozzle. So why there are both? The question is, what's the benefit? What is the limit of the fertilizer nozzles compared to air induction tips? Is it possible with the same effect to use also air induction tips when applying pure fertilizer. And you may be familiar with this picture. It's coming from plant protection. It's coming from Syngenta, and I would like to explain you here a little bit the difference, because we have to look for droplet sizes and droplet distribution in our spray pattern. When we talk about plant protection, if we talk about ID, IDK, whatever, air induction, or even standard tips, you know, we have always, even if you run on low pressure, for instance, we're running an IDK nozzle, an IDK nozzle 04, the farmer does have the IDK 04, maybe a smaller farmer says, yes, I'm really happy with this nozzle, I would like to start with liquid fertilizer. Is this possible? And I always say, yeah, you can do it, but you have to go really slow, because the maximum pressure, really maximum 2 bars. This is even too high for the IDK nozzle with pure fertilizer. Why is this? Because it is coarse. He's coming back and say, if I run at 2 bars, it's a really coarse spray with this nozzle. But you see here, we have always, still we are coarse, we have a lot of fine droplets, because IDK, ID nozzles, wherever, they are designed for coverage. Even at lower pressure, we have always a quite high partition of finer droplets, like here, sticking to the plant. So it's a big compromise in my eyes. You can do it really slow with really low pressure, but if you really want to do it professional, it's a good investment to think about and invest in fertilizer nozzles. So you see here also a comparison, an 05 even, an 05 ID nozzle here. This was done with water, 300 liter, and an 05 fertilizer nozzle. You see, even with higher pressure, and this is the big benefit of fertilizer tips, you know, even with higher pressure at 3 bar here or at 4 bar, we still have these huge balls, these huge raindrops we want to have rolling off the plants and not sticking and avoiding burned or affected leaf. So even big ones with low pressure, too much coverage with air induction tips designed for plant protection. Too huge compromise in my eyes. So I already talked about, we have no fine droplets with fertilizer nozzles, not at all, we don't have them. And especially when we talk about higher rates, you know, higher rates, early beginning of the season, the best choice are our series of FD nozzles because of the cross distribution. You've seen them in here in the background. And over the last years, we really could sell a lot of FD nozzles and with a good feedback from our clients. So a compromise with air induction tips. Where do I find all this? I already talked about, and we will have a quick jump once again, not to YouTube, but to our website, and I will show where to find all these literature. So to our website, here we go. So we are now in the German version, and on the top left, you always find the menu button here. I always recommend to press the menu button, and then here you can change the language. And we still have, or we now have quite a lot of languages. Not all pages are having an egg content, but of course, German is the German website in English. We have a website you see in France, in Spain, in the Netherlands, in Sweden. But for instance, as I know, Sweden does have only industry. So farmers or you should go to the German website, English version. So here we are there, English version. We could go to products, of course. We could go to support. We will have a quick look to support egg. It's easy to press on the arrows, and you have all our support there, which means apps, the calculators, spray tables, and also frequently asked questions. There are a lot of questions already there, and we will update also some more in the near future. We go to catalogs, downloads, and there are all our brochures. We can filter here, because when you go in, there's shown all egg engineering, they are filtered, and then you have all the English literature available on our website. Complete catalog 2020 at the moment. There will be a new one in a few weeks, the 2022 version. And there will be also, now it's here on the second page, there is also the one for liquid fertilizer. Where it is? Did it get lost? I have to check. Third one. Here we go. Field crops, liquid fertilizer. That's the brochure for liquid fertilizer. I just open it, and a lot what we're talking today, of course, products, but also tips for your clients are inside this PDF of the liquid fertilizer catalog. The English version, the latest one, is 2017. Also in the next months or during this year, we want to update this catalog. We already have a 2021 version in German language, if you're familiar with this. So brochure, liquid fertilizer with tips for your clients. Back to the webinar. We talk about products. That's what you're mainly interested, I guess. But I would like to have you also some background information to be on the safe side when talking to your farmers. And we have the old style or classic style, we call it Series FL nozzle. It's in our range for, I guess, 20, 25 years. I'm with Lechler 10 years, but when I started, this was already a well-known nozzles out in the market. There is a stainless orifice on top. There's a stainless orifice on top. So in the spray table, you have to check for the orifice, and there are those three types. The bigger one and the standard one is the gray one, the black one for the smaller rates, and we sell only very few stainless anymore with this type. What's the tendency? What are farmers asking to us? What's the tendency regarding stream nozzles? And we see a real tendency that we sell less and less of this type. What is the reason? You need to buy a nozzle or need to sell a nozzle, an orifice here on top made of stainless, a cap additionally, and they do create coarse droplets. Yes, that's the benefit of this nozzle. It's working. It's working. And here and there, you can also change the flow rate with these stainless orifice, but in reality out on the farms, they do not really do it. That they change from application to application all those orifices. It's quite a sensitive job to do this. Normally, they might mounting it once and then it stays there. So these nozzles are producing extreme coarse droplets to roll off. But, the distribution could be better. I will put it this way. It could be better. It's working okay, but especially like on Greenland, on grassland called, not Greenland, grassland, and especially with higher rates in drier condition. There you can easily see some stripes. If there's a rain just after the application, don't worry, but that's often an argumentation that farmers, that clients are moving from a stream type nozzle, because there are also other ones out there with 3 holes, with 5, like with Lechler, with 6, or even with 7. But often they think about it, yes, I know, I saw these stripes also on my field, so what can I do better? So, but Lechler, I talk about stream nozzle, and I just said, okay, the cross distribution is not that good. Why did we develop a new series of FS nozzles? Why did we do that? What's the background? FS, it's out in the market now for about 2 to 3 years. Fertilizer stream. And we saw for some markets, it depends on the region, farmers are just used to use fertilizer nozzles with streams. We are common. We know the cross distribution is not as good as with another type, with the FD type, but we like to use these stream type nozzles. And also we may have a different bayonet cap. This type of nozzle is spraying downwards. It's spraying downwards here. And you can mount this FS nozzle, including the orifice. It's all ISO colored. You don't need to buy another orifice. So this is also a question of pricing. So an ISO colored nozzle mounted in a standard cap. Because if it comes to other bayonet systems, If we talk about a Hardy sprayer, if we talk about the old type, the original row sprayers, they have a different bayonet. If we talk about Agrifax sprayers, they have all different bayonet systems. And then if you would use another type of nozzle in cap, like the FD, you would need an adapter. This makes it more expensive, it gets longer, and then often they say, keep it simple. And this is also, FS means fertilizer simple. It's an entry type, and you have to better monitor the spray height as with the FD. And our recommendation is always to look for 90 per centimeter spray height. There we gain the best distribution. So we designed it for really some areas, some markets, because they really said, I want to have a stream nozzle, and if you cannot deliver, I will buy whatever another one. So this was the reason, and then the second reason was the different bayonet systems. So we did not just copy another stream nozzles out in the market. There's also some thoughts behind, and the special design, and this is patented. We have a wrench size of 10 millimeters. So the diameter is limited here. It's just 10 millimeters here. But also the challenge was to develop bigger sized FS nozzles like 06 in gray. It's available as 08, even 10 up to 15. So from size 06 on, you see, we have not any more round holes as for the smaller types here. We have kind of an oval holes. So we can also make sure that high rates, even with just 5 orifices, are spread it out with really huge droplets. This is also unique for the FS nozzle. You see, from 06 on, we have these oval holes needed for the higher rates there. This is patented, and you see also there's a kind of a mark. It should be mounted oriented to the front. I would just go one slide back. You see here also there's a little arrow on, but I always point out nose, as with us, nose at the front. You see, this is driving direction, nose should be at the front. Also, the cross distribution, there is not the same amount of liquid coming through every hole. This is also a bit of variation. And you see here, there's one is delivering a little bit more than another hole, to make sure to get the best distribution possible with stream nozzles. This is all details behind this series. Cross distribution, I already got the question. What is FD? You know, the spraying to the back, compared to other orifice nozzle, compared to FS series. And I digged into detail. And with 90 centimeter spray height, and this is important, if you really go down too low with the boom, it really will affect the cross distribution with a stream nozzle. This is with all types of. You really should monitor the spray height between 80 and 100 centimeters. And these were all done, these tests at 90 centimeters, 3 bars, and you see, I was also impressed, 16 with the 04, 26 with the 08. It's getting a little bit worse with the really big one, size 15. But let's put it to, we are between 20 and 50 CV. Not as good as with the FD series, but better than with other stream nozzles. So quite okay, but the customers have to monitor the spray height. Here in Germany, we sold a lot of FD nozzles over the last years, and not only in Germany, also in other countries. We hear this from our dealers. They say, yeah, we were used to use stream nozzles. They are okay. We have clients for it. But if it comes to best distribution, we have to think about FD series. Also, it doesn't matter if you spray with the FD series at 50 centimeters or up to 100 centimeters. Of course, we have more overlap, but it does not affect at all the cross distribution. It really doesn't matter. And this is one of the big benefits of these series: coarse droplet and the best distribution with a CV of roughly 10%. What is the limit? You know, if it comes to coverage, and this is also a reason and a kind of a balance. If it comes to coverage, And really, so in some areas, they say, yeah, we are close. I just jump back. We are close to the Baltic Sea or close to the whatever sea. And we have a lot of dew on our crops and they do not really dry up. So then the tendency is more to go to FS series. I can feel this or hear this from Denmark. In Denmark, they say, yes, FD would be better, but we are concerned about crop scourge. So they go more to FS series because less coverage with the streams. Distribution is not as good, but there's a tendency, like in Denmark, I heard this from Lithuania, from Latvia, there's a tendency to use more the stream nozzles because the farmers just feel better. From my point of view, from my experience, it's the same. Also with the FD series, we do not have more crop scourge or damages as with FS series. Of course, it maybe depends a little bit on surface tension, on the fertilizer quality. FD sprays to the back, you know the sizes 0.03 to 0.5, also new in our range for smaller rates, the yellow one, the FD02, since about 2 years. And the bigger ones for higher amounts, for faster speeds, rates up to 5, 6, even more with special types of fertilizer. Bionet systems, Bionet adapters are available for other like Hardy, what I mentioned before. So FD series, really good cross distribution. You see here with water done in our test bench in the lab in Metzingen, really good one. I always point out 10 CV of 10% or even better. Stream times of Lechler, we measured them. You just seen FS between 20 and 60. The old FL is roughly around 50 to 60. Other ones we also did measure following the guideline from the other manufacturers, when we see distribution between 45, 50, and sometimes 80%. It looks like this. And we did not make the settings on the test bench to really create a very bad cross distribution. This was a 7-hole nozzle, and we follow the recommendation of the manufacturer, really spray height, pressure, and the result. And I also was a little bit surprised because when you look to this nozzle, it looks good, it looks okay. Coarse droplets, nice pattern, but on the patternator finally, and also then on the soil, here you have 2 streams, you have 2. Here you have nothing, here you have 1 stream, another 1, so quite uneven. And if you look to the field, to the plants, you know, of course, a root system of a plant, I make it green now, of course, if there is a wheat plant here, of course, the root system is nowhere is fertilizer, but the area where one plant is getting the fertilizer is not that huge. It's maybe as huge as your hand, maybe as a plate. When if there is no fertilizer there, this plant is really not getting enough, and the neighboring plant beside is getting too much. So of course they are spreading these stream fertilizers, but I think you know what I mean here with the cross distribution. So stream types, not as good as the FD series. Pros and cons about them. So, okay, is this okay, what you see here? And this normally, you know, this picture is used for plant protection nozzles. And change again to the red one. Plant protection nozzles, and we're talking about edging nozzles or border nozzles. But it's the same when it comes to liquid fertilizer application. You know, if we use a liquid fertilizer nozzle, maybe with a little bit higher boom and higher pressure, also the last nozzle here is spreading the liquid fertilizer out to the field boundary or outside of the field. And it's just money, and maybe your neighbor is happy. The neighbor is happy, is getting some fertilizer, but if the field boundary is here, we should avoid to spread fertilizer out of the field border. And for this reason, you know, we developed brand new this fertilizer border nozzle, FB called FB. So to run in combination, of course, with the FD nozzle. So FD plus FB makes it really perfect. No overspray at all of liquid fertilizer at the field boundary. Asymmetric spray angle, you see here that it's marked here, and we have an asymmetric 100-degree spray pattern. Designed for the right-hand side only at the moment, and I think we will stay like this, right-hand side only. And if some customers, some farmers, if you would like to run it on the left-hand side, you just have to mount it to the front end. Maybe you need an extension, but this is the possibility if you want to run this fertilizer border nozzle on the left-hand side of your boom. Typical pressure range as with the FD nozzle. Distribution, how does it look like? As I just described on this picture, if we use a standard fertilizer nozzle here at the last position, we have an overspray. We have an overspray of fertilizer, and this just lost money. And if we put an FB, as shown here, a border nozzle in the same color, so if you run a red FD, also the right combination is a red border nozzle, as with other border nozzles in plant protection. The best case would be, and we tried all kind of designs, the best case to be 100% inside the field border, as you see here, this is the red line is end of the field, would be to shut off the second one. So this is the second position. You see, this is the third position first, and this is the second. To be really 100% inside, farmers should shut off this one. So then, of course, the discussion started, how is it possible from the cap, not leaving the cap, from the cap to shut off the second one, and the first one should be still running. So this is possible on some sprayers, or with a special design, or the farmer really has to leave the cap and shut off manually. So in my point of view, the second best case would be to run, and this is often done in reality, to run around the field with a lower pressure, not at 4 bars, to run at 2, maybe to 3 bars. And then the second nozzle is still spreading. You have a bit of more amount here. It will look like this. There will be fertilizer from the second nozzle. And then with the second nozzle running here, plus the FB nozzle, we may have an overspray of whatever, maybe this comes from the second one, maybe 10 centimeters. So a lot better than running without any border nozzle for fertilizer. So this is best case, second off, second best with lower pressure with the second one running. FB border nozzle. Also new in our range, and will be in the updated catalog as well, it's on the website already, is a variable rate fertilizer nozzle. Why did we design this? It took us about 3 years for designing and field testing, and we are aware that there's already other variable rate nozzles in the market. We didn't want to copy them, and it was for us quite clear, okay, if we do this, we will use an FD series as a basis. And it's designed as a VRM. You see VRM, medium, and a VRL in purple and in orange. And the VRM, the medium design, covers roughly from 035 flow up to 06, up to 08. It depends a little bit on the pressure. And the L, the large one, starting from 06 up to 10 to 50. The mouthpiece is not changing. You see, this is always, of course, the same. This is with all variable nozzles. So this is kind of a bit of a compromise to find the right design of the mouthpiece, but still with higher pressures, because this was my personal concern. What will happen if we run these nozzles with a higher flow rate? Will we get fine droplets? Will we get too fine spray pattern? But this is not the case. Even with 5 or even 6 bars, we're still very coarse, it means ultra coarse, with an excellent distribution. If it comes to flow charts, you will see here a flow chart, and with a closer look on this slide, and I'm mentioning here, we're covering 3+ sizes. if you have a look to our documentation, you will see covering 5 ISO sizes. This is the maximum coverage, 5 ISO sizes. But I think if this nozzle will easily cover 2 to 3 sizes, it's a great argument for customers interested in this. So why should they use this? What is the benefit? You know, if you have a customer, it has a standard triple nozzle body, and there already is an ID mounted and maybe an IDTA. Yes, I have another position, but just one position to spread fertilizer. But I don't want to buy 2 or 3 sets, and often I go slow around the field or around trees or bushes or whatever. I go slow, but I have big fields, and inside the fields I want to speed up. But my sprayer is not able to change the nozzle. It's a manual nozzle body. And exactly for these customers who want to change the flow rate and don't want to change so often the nozzles, they are potential customers, or this is a good solution for them, for instance, with the VRM for normal rates of UAN. And starting at 2 bars, not at 1.5 with the other ones, 2 bars, the reason we have a bit of a pressure drop inside the nozzle with the design of the nozzle. That's why it's starting at 2 bars, starting with a good spray pattern. You see here at between 0.3 and 0.4, 0.35 roughly in flow rate. It's a flow rate chart here. And then if you going faster and you're reaching 3 bars, we at 0.4, 4 bars, we are between 4 and 5, and 5 bar, don't worry, it's easily done, and we still really extra course. We are behind 5, and I think 6 bars it's acceptable. It sounds to be high, but we are still on the safe side with really ultra coarse droplets. We really measured this because we were also concerned what will happen if we increase the flow from about 1 liter starting up to 2.5, close to 3 liters per minute. You see, this is 3 liters per minute. So, but it's working, and we did 3 years field testing. VRM, and for the guys wanna put that out higher rate, there is the bigger brother, the VRL, with the same technology inside. How does it look like? It's not a simple rubber orifice, because there is a competitor out. They put just a simple rubber orifice on top, and we do not really trust this technology. In standardized condition with 20 degrees and water, they may work, but if it's cold or warm, and these rubber pieces, you know this from gaskets, they're getting older and they're getting more hard or sticky. So we didn't go this direction with a rubber orifice. Also, we do not use kind of a simple spring solution, which is also out in the market, because we know this from ball filters with a spring inside. You know, you have this ball to prevent tripping, and it's pressed up by a spring. And we know these springs, you know, they have a variation in their forces. Even if you buy precise ones, brand new, there is a variation just of the design. So we went another way, and this is coming from suspension, from shock absorbers, this technology, and it looks like this, that we have always one orifice. This one is always there. It's all stainless insert. One is always there, and then this is this yellow piece here, and there's a kind of special stainless part. And with increased pressure, you know, there is a hole and there's another one here. This bends a little bit down. And so that's why we are getting a coverage. I just go back up to really, it looks like this. This is not marketing. This is done by our R&D guys. Really, we can cover easily 3 ISO sizes. Field tests also shown that if you have really not the best quality of fertilizer, or you have some sand inside, some particles, and to be honest, it can happen that they stick inside. So when we are recommending an 80 mesh filter, and we are delivering this nozzle with an 80 mesh nozzle strainer as standard. Farmers should use this, and my personal advice would be also you should have an 80 mesh section filter or an 80 mesh pressure filter, just to avoid too many issues with particles inside these VR nozzles. What to do if it happens? Also, we discovered this: just flush the sprayer daily and flush it with a higher pressure, and then this special design, it just gets bended down and flushes out all the particles may stick inside. So filtering is recommended to have a robust design. But we really did 3 years field testing, and we did redesign and another redesign, and we think we have a good solution, a robust solution for the clients. This is how it looks like. 80 mesh is coming with, it's packed in 10 pieces, a unit, and also there's a kind of a transport pack that if you pack them around or deliver them to customers or farmers, if you receive them, that not the insert is lost. So I look to the chat, no questions up to now. And we are coming to the last few slides about recommendation and drop hoses. So we talked about surface tension, about fertilizer quality, and about cross distribution of different nozzles. And as you can see here, you see the arrow. It's now the German version AHL, which is UAN. It's dark brown up to here, and you're really on the safe side. Even if your fertilizer quality is not as good as from SKW Pistorids, maybe the surface tension is a bit lower, it's a mixture, whatever. In the early spring, like here, if you use proper liquid fertilizer nozzles, they are working. And if a few leaves are a little bit burned, getting a little bit brown on the early stage, beginning of the growing season, it does not hurt. So, but of course, for a second application like here, or even here, when the flag leaf here, the flag leaf is coming out, then of course farmers should be more sensitive. You can run with nozzles. That's why we have a light brown arrow here. You can run with nozzles, but really the farmers have to be sensitive about quality and so on. So what to do? Use a drop hose, or use a droplet if you like to. But a drop hose, that's my favorite when it comes to pricing and to folding of the sprayer, and only, in marks, only to fertilizer application. The 5S or 5S is a quite good solution for a second application like here, or a quality application to force protein content later on when already the head is out. So nozzles, first, second, and then late application, we have to monitor the conditions or use drop hoses. What did we design? And you may be familiar with this design. In the past, and also from other manufacturers, you still see drop hoses with kind of a T-piece, such a T-piece. And then you have another one, another T-piece here. We also had this. We had this in our range. So why did we stop? Because this works, with a smaller 12-meter sprayer, this is okay. But what happens, these things are bending, twisting here or the other way around. You have a strong force on the nozzle body, so they are twisting, you're losing them in the field, or the nozzle body here, too high forces and they break off, you have leakages. That's why we stopped this technology. We had it in our range to speak openly. Why did we design 5S and the bigger brother 5SL? The target was really to keep it simple in the first point, keep it simple with a 50 spacing, on a standard sprayer, and to avoid this T system, these T pieces here. So what to do to spread the fertilizer if we just have every 50 or only every 50 centimeters? A drop hose. So there is a real, I call it always XXL stainless nozzle inside, and this is the main knowledge. This is a high quality hose, and the main knowledge is here inside here, an XXL stainless nozzle. What's the benefit? We have quite a good weight, a higher weight than compared to other systems, but we have only half amount of drop hoses, only half the amount. So there's much less resistance when going through the crops. And also when folding the sprayer, it's easily from unfold to fold. It doesn't matter what kind of sprayer we talk about. So easy to install, no twisting. We're not losing this on the field. We need holes, we need orifices down here. We tried this also with a kind of a mouse piece, like with an FD nozzle. We tried this, but this is not working because of two reasons. You collect dirt, there is dirt going inside here. And really, if we are inside the crop with a distance of 50 centimeters of this drop hose, we really need kind of small holes, aggressive streams, you know, for a good cross distribution. You see here, this tested on the yard here. This, if you spray here with water, these streams are roughly 2 meters. They are roughly 2 meters here on this concrete surface. This was just a test if everything's running fine when we designed this. Driving direction important. Spraying direction should be driving direction, because in the field later on, I always say it's like a banana, you know, in the field like this, and then we make sure that the streams only hit the bottom of the plant and the ground. So it should be mounted like this. Spray direction to driving direction. Mounting, folding, quite simple. You know, low forces, because every second one is missing. Low forces on the nozzle bodies here, and also when folding up upright booms or with the mud guards, you have no headache when folding the boom with this flexible system of the 5S and 5SL. Quick video how it looks like working at around 7 kilometers per hour for a late fertilization in winter wheat. So yeah, it's really staying inside the crop. It was a good winter wheat, good soil there, I guess 8 to 10 tons here. You see this heavy weight prevents from, we call it swimming up, or it's not coming up and spreading any liquid fertilizer into the flag leaf. So this is very important. We monitor during development, no fertilizer to the flag leaf and to the ear. So really only to the stem and to the ground. Roughly 7 kilometers. And there's also the recommendation. We often get the question, how fast is it possible to run this 5S in the field? My experience shows 6 to 8. This is a normal speed with those drop hoses. Maybe if the crop is not so dense, maybe you can go up to 9 kilometers, but somehow there's just a limit and it starts, you know, to swim around. So 6 to 9, maybe 10 kilometers in a really dense crop, but it is not really recommended. What's the difference between the two versions? You know, the standard version, the first one was the 5S. We can say also 5 standard, but it's 5 streams, designed for normal rates. You see here from 80 to 250. If you go to like a standard speed, 7 kilometers, often the blue orifice is used, and you see 100 to 230 liter with this orifice. Also, important, maybe you're not aware, we use colored orifice. Since 2, now 3 years, we use a colored orifice, not anymore stainless ones. This just for easier handling, and also redesigned here. This upper part is one part, so it's not a cap and a hose barb anymore. It's one part, so cap and hose barb as one design to prevent breaking off here the drop hose. And together with this, for easier handling, also these colored orifices were introduced. So 5S standard, and then we got requests from farmers who would like to run in corn, you know, 70 spacing, 75 spacing, in sunflower, and higher rates. So, and if you have just a 75 centimeter spacing, you have more flow per drop hose. And so this was the reason to also create a bigger product called SL. As you can see, for instance, here, 7 kilometers from 180 up to 400 liters roughly with a brown orifice. The difference is a different type of insert here. We have quite small holes with the 5S to get this stream with power to distribute inside the crop. And that's how it's a physical limit. And with the FSL, we have bigger holes. And so also the minimum amount is just a question of stream out there. And you see here, we start with an 04, or if at roughly, I would say at 200 liters to it starts at 7 kilometers. You cannot spread just 100 liters with the 5SL because the orify would allow it. You can mount a small orify here, for instance, an 03 or an 02, but you will not have enough flow for a good spray pattern. It will look like this. So that's why there is also a minimum limit for, at least I would point out, 1.3 liters of water. Real minimum is 1 liter, but my recommendation is 200 liter upwards with the 5SL. Physical reasons. If it comes to corn, sunflowers, whatever, with row crops, we also are able to relocate, the drop hose to have it really in the center between. So there's available this relocation kit in our literature, and you just mount a separate nozzle body and it stays there. It stays there. You just mount a drop hose here every 75 centimeters. And when you have done the application, you take off this hose, store it, and the next spring you put it on again. This stays on the sprayer because the liquid is coming from here. It has nothing to do with the boom. The liquid really is coming from the side, delivered with this little tube here. Relocation kit for special applications in corn, sunflower, and so on. Real special one is this new design, brand new in our German liquid fertilizer brochure for side dressing. It's getting popular in the US, in Northern America. There are special applicators who are doing this. They want to do for maybe corn, not for silage, corn for grain. They want to put a side dress depot here on the side of the plant. They do not spread it. They really do side dressing called. Is special, and we have also a solution for this, but then you would have to install drop leg, plus this Y kit, we call it, with dosing orifice to use such a side dressing kit. Just get in contact with us. If you would like to have a sample, get in touch with us and talk about this special side dressing with drop leg. So we're coming to the end. Daily helpers, you know them, spray tables, they are available for free, of course, for water, for liquid fertilizer. And I think you are familiar also with our app. Now here it's shown plant protection, but a good function is also for liquid fertilizer, where you can put all the N amount, the percentage, the rate, and finally, it's a good helper to find out the proper nozzle setup. So thank you from my side. To following, still everybody is here, 17 members. Thanks to the audience, and feel free to ask any question or give us a feedback if you enjoyed the webinar.
Before some other colleagues, guests will ask something, I would like to add something about hose drops. If you could, Jürgen, no, maybe not, no move, because people are already
go back.
Yeah, to
Which
hose
one?
drops.
This one?
Yes. For example, because I would like to just point out that there is a few second inertia with filling up the hose. So in front of the headland, just when you come from the headland to the field, tractor drivers have to be aware of this and lower the boom sooner than the actual start of the spraying moment to let a few seconds filling up. And the opposite thing should happen at the end of the field, when going out of the field to the headland. Again, keep the boom in the canopy before all the liquid fertilizer will drop out.
Yeah,
we have to be careful.
It's a good tip. Also, it's good. Yeah, often I get the question, how should I run? What should the boom height be with these drop hoses? It's a good comment, Jan, from your side. I always, because I had also been on these tests when we developed this, I always tell to the farmers, I know it's hard to measure because this is not a drag hose, you know, the farmers should not work like this, because I had this case. One farmer said, yeah, I dragged it like this on the ground, you know. This should not happen, because then you will have not a good distribution, because all the fertilizer will be down here. My recommendation, it's quite easy. Lower the boom till this top end stays on the ground. You can really easily see it from the cabin. Lower the boom till this really sticks on the ground, and I mark it here. If it sticks on the ground, you see this, and then if you start driving, due to the movement like this, you are exactly on the right position, just above 10 to 20 centimeters above the ground. So it should not be like this, that farmers really drag this hose on the ground like this. This happened once. And then they complained, we see stripes, it's not a good solution. What did you sell to me? Because they did just had too low boom height. Too low boom height is not a solution for these drop hoses. To the ground, and you see this, and then start driving. And this is also mentioned here in our literature. There's also I did not copy it here. It says, okay, there should be a distance to the ground of about 10 centimeters roughly. It's hard to indicate from the cap. And this is why I give the farmers those tips. Lower it to the ground and then start driving. Also, another question which is coming with those drop hoses, dripping. You know, what happens when I stop the spray, when I stop spraying? Of course, it needs time to fill them, as Jan already mentioned. But when you stop spraying, you know, the diaphragm here closes. And there's no air intake hole, because normally you are used to air intake holes with drop hoses that they are running empty. This was also in the past with our T pieces, with our T design. There was a hole in here and also a hole in here. So the fertilizer was running out and emptying this T piece design. With 5S and 5SL, it's not. It's not, because when the diaphragm here closes, it's a closed system. And then you get very few, really very few drops coming out. And then when you take it off, then it really empties. So there's not really you shouldn't be concerned about dripping. When you start the sprayer, and once it's full, it stays almost full. It really stays almost full. Just when you take it off, then it completely empties.